hope you're all doing well. Today we are going to talk about setting up our interactive student notebook, which throughout this year we'll call an ISN for Interactive Student Notebook. I really don't mind what design you get for your ISN for ELA. Typically these have the marbled covers. Most of you are probably most familiar with them being like a black and white. Go ahead and label it your name and then ELA. So yeah, so if your last name is Adams, it should say Joan Adams for ELA. Dimes, this is me, and this is my ELA ISN. When we're talking about the marble composition, I am looking for the kind that are threaded. They're woven, which means if you were to pull this, you would see like the threads inside. This has the least likely chance of kind of crumbling inside, as you're shoving things in inside and out of your book bag and such. So we're trying to avoid the spiral if possible. So a composition notebook. We are going to do a rough draft today before we actually open up our ISN. So I'm going to set this aside and show you my rough draft. What we're going to be putting on the inside is an acrostic poem. An acrostic poem uses a name or a concept down the side and then sentences or phrases to describe the concept written over, starting with each of the letters within the name or the concept. So we'll be writing our name down the side, all capitals, and in our master or in our final copy, it'll have, they'll be darker and bolder. So I did take a pen, use capital letters, and spelled my name out. If you go by a different name than maybe Lincoln County Schools has for you, then feel free to use the name that you most associate with. That's fine by me. So for my acrostic poem, I had to brainstorm phrases that describe me that start with each of my letters. So I came up with loves to read. A is always gives a Jeep wave. Not sure if I have any other Jeep family friends out there, but we are a Jeep family in the Dimes household, and when one Jeep passes another Jeep, we give a wave. It's this friendly camaraderie of Jeep waving. I try really hard to not miss a Jeep wave. U usually has coffee in the morning. That since this is my rough draft on my spiral notebook instead, when I reread this to myself earlier, I realized it didn't sound right without the. So I did add it, just made a little note to myself that when I make my final copy, I definitely want to insert the. Going down to R, really loves teaching middle school. There's no other place that I would rather be. I, interested in learning languages. I do know sign language, American Sign Language. I would love to become fluent in Spanish and even learn some more Chinese. Last one, E, enjoys camping in a tent. Wondering how many other tent campers I have out there versus glamping, meaning that you like to sleep in an RV with the air conditioning running and a nice soft mattress. My family would love to rough it, if you will, and sleep in tents, tent style, and with hammocks. So this is my rough draft of my acrostic poem. At this stage, I would maybe recommend sharing it with an adult and making sure that your spelling's all correct. Make the changes that you need to. Maybe you can come up with different adjectives that make your acrostic poem just sound a little bit more powerful and sincere. I do want you to notice that in my phrases and sentences, not a single one is a single word. Every one of them has at least 3 words in it, and I would ask the same of you, no less than 3 words in each of them. The only other piece that I do want to share is if you have a difficult letter in your name to come up with a word, for example, like an X, I'm okay if you throw a little E in front of it and make it like extra great at whatever you're extra great at. This is your acrostic poem to describe you, and so there is some flexibility in this, and I want it to be fun. If you get stuck on a letter, feel free to ask a family member or a friend, and they might be able to help you out with the first word to kind of finish your phrase or your sentence, okay? So go ahead and take a moment and complete your acrostic poem on your rough draft. Share it with an adult. Make sure it's exactly the way that you want it to be before continuing on. So go ahead and hit pause on the video until you have this step completed. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and switch to my interactive student notebook, right? And this acrostic poem is going to go on the front page. So you can see in here I have my inside cover and then my front page. I do want you to take a dark color. Preferably no markers, because we end up using every single page in our ISN and the markers will bleed through. But you can use, I use colored pencils today, but you could use colored pencils or crayons. Pick a dark color and go down the side, again, remembering that these are all capitalized because they start the sentence or phrase, and we always start our sentences with capital letters. And then I went ahead and copied my phrases from my rough draft using different colors just to kind of make it pop a little bit more. Okay, here I knew that this one was going to be a little long, so I took two lines for it. Okay, and I was pretty happy with the way it turned out. I even went a little silly and put little circles on the ends of my letters just to make it look a little more creative. I'm not an artist. I never claimed to be. So I will never judge you on whether or not something's drawn well, but I do expect you to try your best. I would probably come back in here and maybe draw a book, right? Again, I'm not an artist. I don't pretend to be, right? So I might have my book here and then, a high five for my Jeep wave, right? My coffee cup in the morning. Oh goodness, I love me some coffee in the morning, right? And I would come back and darken these with colored pencil again. Don't laugh at my hand. I see it. That's awful. I don't even think I have all my fingers. Really loves teaching middle school. Maybe I would draw an apple. I would totally have to get a clip art to do that one. Languages, maybe ABC to the side. And then tent camping, I might draw a tent over here. So you get the idea. Make this as fun and as it can become. In Google Classroom, I have asked that you take a picture of your acrostic poem and upload it as an assignment. This way, I get to read your acrostic poem that should describe you pretty well, and it'll help me get to know you a little bit better. I also want to make sure that you just follow directions the best that you can, okay? So now we're going to continue setting up our ISN. If you're not at this point yet, which I wouldn't expect you to be through my directions, go ahead again and push pause on the video. Now we're going to come to our table of contents. Back at the beginning, the ISN I chose has 100 sheets. Some of them say 80, so it's really okay. Whichever one is purchased for you, that's fine. Just be aware of that when you're making your table of contents. So back here, my acrostic poem flipped one page over, and I have table of contents written to the top. I've gone ahead and I've numbered my page 1 through 25. And then I've picked up over here and gone 26 through 50. Since I have 100 pages, that's not going to be enough lines for my table of contents. So on the second page in, I did it again. Table of contents continued, and I picked up where I left off, 51 through 75, 76 through 100. The purpose of this is if we create an anchor chart on page 8, then we are going to write on page 8 that we have an anchor chart. So this is going to be a running document of things that are in your notebook so that you can find them easily when concepts are reviewed. Okay? Again, you might want to pause this video so that you can go ahead and number your table of contents. Once you finish your table of contents, you're going to flip over one more page. Notice that I kind of squeezed that to make sure that no pages are sticking together. At this point, I highly recommend you're using a pencil because these pages do tend to stick. And then if that's the case, then you would end up having to redo it and it becomes a little bit of a hot mess. We're only going to number the right-hand side. So after the table of contents, I have nothing at the top here. My table of contents is all behind me. This is my page 1. So when I have to number several pages at once, I literally just kind of hang out down here. So there's 1, and then I do 2, and 3, and you can see that I'm like making sure they're not sticking. 4, 5, 6, all the way. You can kind of see what I'm doing here, all the way. Now, since I used a few pages in the beginning, I'm not going to be able to get straight to 100. I think mine has 97. Yeah, I have 97 in mine because it says I use 3, and that's fine. So that's great. 97 pages for us to fill this year is wonderful. So that's your last task, to complete your interactive student notebook to make sure that it's ready for ELA so we can start taking notes and start getting some great learning happening. So again, to have this complete, you should have your name, the class, because each of your 4 classes are probably going to have a notebook. You're going to have your acrostic poem on the inside cover. You'll have 2 pages of table of contents, 1, 2. Flip over one more time, and your page count is going to start here in the bottom right-hand corner, and you're going to go as far as this will let you go, and you're finished. Okay. Feel free to rewatch the video if you got stuck or you need to see something again. And I look forward to seeing your acrostic poems on Google Classroom. So have a great day.